welcome, Gina and Glenn. And my clock now says 7 o'clock.
It's awful slow. It took me, I was timing it. It took me 11 minutes to get, there's Stephanie, to get in. I don't know if it's just, it could.
All right, so I'll call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock and ask everyone to join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that brings us to the minutes of our last meeting, June 8th, 2020. Were there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, could I have a motion that they be approved as written?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Fitzpatrick. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Raymond. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
That's on
nay.
you. Aye.
Minutes are approved. That brings us to mayor announcements. Several announcements tonight. First of all, I did extend the state of emergency yet again. As you know, I can only do that for 30 days at a time, so I've had to extend it every time the 30 days was up. So it's now extended from June 17th to July 17th. Julia has been working on our FEMA webpage and entering expenditures and so forth and trying to get us in a situation to be reimbursed. So as far as we can know and control, that stuff's under control. New York State has announced a temporary hold on all state aid to municipalities. Now, after they announced that, we did receive a CHIPS letter saying that we were getting our CHIPS money this year. So I'm assuming, since that came after the announcement, that CHIPS must not be included in the hold. However, all DASNY grants are affected, Dormitory Authority grants, and as you know, we have 3 active. I'm told by Mary Beth Walsh's office that this is a temporary hold and that the money is not expected to disappear, but we might be delayed in getting reimbursed. So I have instructed DPW to proceed with 3 of the grant projects that I consider essential. And I wanted you to know that because there is some level of risk involved with our doing this and then actually having the funding disappear and not getting reimbursed, in which case we would have to eat the costs. But I think these things need to be done, and I think the chances are good that we'll get reimbursed. The 3 projects are the Saratoga Avenue Sewer Project. That's the last piece of the Farley grant. The Farley grant expires in October. If we don't spend the money by then, we lose it. And as you know, Saratoga Avenue tends to flood every time we have a heavy rainfall. So this is something that has needed to be done for a long time. The second one is the Lowell Street Valve Replacement Project, which is being funded by the Walsh grant. As you know, we have 2 pumps in the Lowell Street pump station, and these valves that need to be replaced are the things that allow us to isolate one from the other. So right now, with these valves non-functioning, if one pump goes out, we have to shut down the whole system to fix it, and we run the risk of losing our water supply. Once the valves are replaced, then if one pump goes out, we isolate it from the system, we keep it running with the other pump while the repairs are done to the first one. So I think that the safety of our continued water supply merits going ahead with that project. And the third one is the retaining wall on Bath Street. It's in a state of collapse. That's covered under the Tedisco grant, and it poses obvious life safety issues until it's corrected. So I've asked DPW to proceed with those 3 projects at some small risk that we might lose the funding somewhere down the line. Third, I received this afternoon and forwarded to the board a pool opening plan from the pool director dealing with the COVID-19 related restrictions that pools are required to comply with. As you know, the governor has left it up to individual municipalities whether to open their pools or not. We anticipate opening when we go into phase 4, which is possibly as early as July 1st. So DPW is preparing the pool. It will be ready to be opened by July 1st. I'll ask the board members to review the safety plan that they received today from the pool director and to contact her directly if you have any questions or comments on that plan. Fourth, I received a letter of resignation from Jen Owens, who was a member of the Committee on the Arts, and her replacement is later on in tonight's agenda. And last, I discovered that the school district and the town of Ballston have been planning for some while for the safety of kids walking down Ballston Avenue to get to the middle school and the high school. What they may not have realized until relatively recently was that some of that is inside the village, not in the town. And so they've shared that plan with me. The plan is done. They've shared that plan with me, and the part that would affect us would be a 3-way stop sign at the intersection of Ballston Ave and McMaster Street, complete with a crosswalk in that location, which would require curb ramps for handicapped access, and apparently 1 new section of sidewalk to make the connection that apparently is not there. I have requested information about estimated costs because I assume they did that as part of their planning process. And I've requested information about funding sources, hoping that they have funding sources identified and lined up. But I wanted to give you a heads up on that because it's work that needs to be done in the village, and it's possible that it might have some financial impacts on us. So I'll let you know more when I find out more. And that's it for announcements tonight. Moving on to old business, the first item of old business was the contract with the EOC on public use of their parking lots. As I mentioned a minute ago, that contract is not finalized yet. Councilor Ferradino wrote a draft and sent it to EOC, and the last time I talked to her earlier this afternoon, we hadn't heard back from EOC yet. This is really not any big deal because we've already got the agreement in place and they've already changed their signs and we're already using their lots. So this is just a formality, and I'm sure it'll be resolved, and I'll plan to put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Are we covered with insurance on that, Mayor?
We have not done anything with insurance.
Okay.
So presumably it's EOC's insurance at this point. That's one of the things the contract would address, is whether we have any liability, but at this point, I don't think we do. Any other old business tonight?
I'm not sure. We had discussed traffic problems on Hyde specifically. Since then, I've gotten comments from residents of Hyde, a number of them, including from the dentist at the end, who says that he hears semi-trucks turning around daily. So clearly it's a problem there. Also on North High, West High, Union Street, Division Street, these are all residents that have told me about problems with speeding and problems with trucks. So it's not just Hyde Boulevard.
There was an accident on the corner of Hyde and Chapman yesterday evening. Somebody ran into a there was an accident between two vehicles and one of them ran into a telephone pole. There was also this morning on Chapman Street around 11:30, when I was out in front, there was an 18-wheeler that came down Chapman Street, made a right off Malta Avenue, a left off Malta Avenue and came down Chapman. Unfortunately, I was not able to get a picture of the license plate.
Yeah, I saw two today, just being out in the garden. One question I had, and this is, I don't know, maybe Stephanie can answer it, is if you take a picture or a video of somebody violating our traffic laws, can that be used as evidence to prosecute? So, you know, I know we clearly like to have the police there every time, you know, catching these folks, but that's not possible. And, you know, citizens will take pictures if it results in something.
I don't think Stephanie's with us right now. She's in 2 meetings at the same time.
Oh, I didn't know.
I mean, I think that the main issue, I think, with all of that truck traffic is simply the mapping isn't aware of the low bridge. And when they're trying to go down Malta Ave, they realize there's a low bridge, and now they're turning onto Hyde and going in at other surface streets to try to get back around. I think it's probably more of an issue at the beginning of Malta at Route 50, that there needs to be better signage or some sort of signage that says low bridge, so that they don't even turn down Malta Avenue. Because I think that's kind of more the result of why you're seeing a lot of truck traffic on Hyde, is they realize they can't get through that way, and then they look for an alternate route.
Don't they come from Malta, from down Malta onto Hyde? The one I saw on Chapman Street this morning was coming from the direction of Route 9. Down Malta and made a left onto Chapman Street.
Down Malta and made a left.
Down Malta and from the direction of Route 9 and made a
Right.
left onto Chapman. And that's
Well,
where, when I see them, that's usually the direction. They're not coming from Route 50. They're coming from,
yeah, well, a tractor trailer can't make it under that bridge.
under the bridge.
On Malta.
On Malta.
I have discussed this
Obviously.
with the police department. I know they're aware of the issue, and I believe Trustee Shaw has also discussed it with them. But other than that,
Well, what about the idea of changing the fines to,
So I think we should take that one offline. I think that, you know, with Stephanie, maybe in a privileged session, but I think that there was she did some research on that, and I thought that the conclusion was that we were not able to do that beyond what the rates are that are set currently.
yeah, I remember that as well.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's very frustrating. I don't know whether, you know, it feels sort of powerless, right? I mean, it feels unacceptable that this issue continues to be such a problem, that our constituents continue to complain about it, and we apparently are hamstrung, both by resources and by legal limitations in terms of what we can do. So I don't know exactly what the right answers are. I know, Sean, you had put forth a number of options for Hyde, where, of course, the ones that didn't cost very much money weren't going to be very effective, and the ones that cost a lot of money and would be effective are out of our reach from a budgetary point of view right now. So I don't know whether there's something that can be discussed with the sheriff's office about increased enforcement from them in that area. You know, whether there's something that we could talk about with DOT about signage out on the roads closer, you know, frankly, out in Malta, you know, where people are coming from. Because once these guys get, like, I mean, you know, the die is cast, like the horse is out of the barn or whatever it is. I mean, they need to be aware, notwithstanding the fact that they're using the wrong freaking GPS, which is not our problem, it's theirs. they need to be seeing signs way out, like near the Route 9 Malta Ave intersection.
Right,
Although
Route
I've
50
also
Malta too.
seen trucks entering from our end, from East High. That, the picture I took was a truck coming that way, not from Malta.
Yeah.
So
So
they're basically following the GPS for the shortcut around the village,
Yep.
which a lot of people do, which has led to the high traffic on Hyde. Is that's the go around, and this was a huge tractor, trailer. So it's both ways.
All right,
So
well, we're aware
other
of
than-
the issues, we're aware of the problems. If anybody wants to volunteer to take the lead on putting together a set of recommendations or something like that, I would be happy to hear them when they come back. But at this point, I don't think we have any actionable items to do
I mean, I
anything.
think we have Sean's recommendations from the last time we had this conversation in terms of.
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I could
street work.
broaden the scope of it so that we look at Malta and 9 and Malta and 50 and potential signage there. Also, we could enhance the signage at, Hyde and the East Line. So that if they are turning down there, that maybe they make signs that have very small LEDs around the periphery that run solar, very low power, that it might just draw more attention to the fact that there's a truck prohibition there.
If you would put that together for our next meeting, I'll be happy to put you on the agenda under old business.
Certainly.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
I also like the idea of I think it was Noah who said about maybe talking to the sheriff's department. I understand that the sheriff and the police are aware of this, and obviously this is not the top priority. Public safety, everything, I understand that other things come before that, but I'd like to know what the police department are aware of this problem, what that materializes into. I think we really have to, it's an ongoing problem. It literally gets mentioned to me several times a week in this neighborhood, and I really think we have to have some kind of a real plan to address it.
I have a meeting with the sheriff on Wednesday, and I just made myself a note to add this to the list of things that we're going to discuss. So I'll
Thank
let you
you.
know if he has any insights.
And I'd like to find out if the citizen takes a picture or video, can that be used?
I just asked Dave Bush that, and I'll let you know what he says.
You just
Okay.
asked who, Noah? I didn't hear that.
The chief of police, Dave.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay.
All right, so let's move on to new business then. The first item of new business would be a motion that the Ballston Spa Central School District be granted permission to reschedule their Scotty's Stampede 5K race for Saturday, August 1st, as long as the state guidelines allow at that time. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Raymond. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Second by trustee Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item is the replacement of Jen Owens on the Committee on the Arts that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Could I have a motion to ratify my appointment of Katie Tiedemann to the Committee on the Arts to fill the remaining term of Jen Owens expiring in 2022?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Shaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Cormos. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item is the approval of the hiring of lifeguards for the 2020 pool season. And I believe your agendas had an attachment with a list of those lifeguards. Could I have a motion to approve that list, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Raymond, second by trustee Shaw. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Well, that motion carries. Next is the application of Fox Pest Control for peddling permits. We dealt with this last year. At that time, it was the first time any of us had ever dealt with it. It took us a while to get our procedures down. And by the time we ended up, I believe, approving it towards the end of the season, it was too late for them to do anything. This year, they got their application in early. It went immediately to the building inspector, who recommended approval, and then to the police chief, who recommended approval, and it's now before the board. Could I have a motion to approve the 10 applications for Fox Pest Control?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by trustee Fitzpatrick. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Raymond. Any discussion?
Yes. Given we're in the middle of a pandemic, door-to-door sales strikes me as putting people at risk, frankly. What precautions is these vendors going to be? They're going to go to people's doors, ring the bell.
Well, why don't we just make the approval subject to compliance with state guidelines regarding this activity?
Are there guidelines?
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay,
would think
wear
there are
masks.
guidelines for, I mean, yes. I am sure that this kind of activity is listed in either the stage 3 or stage 4 sort of businesses that are allowed to reopen, in-home contractor services, basically. Where
Okay.
this falls, I don't know, but you're right. I mean, we should ensure compliance with applicable state law as a condition of the permit. And
I
that-
did ask them
Okay,
what they were going to do. They said they were going to be wearing masks, carrying hand sanitizer, and standing 6 feet apart.
that's fine. I just don't know whether that complies with whatever the Department of Health guidelines are. So let's
Agreed.
get compliance with state law, and then if we find out that they're not, we'll find out what the state law is on this regard, and then if they're not complying with it, we'll cancel their permit.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
So was that an amendment to the motion or just clarification?
I'll offer the amendment subject where the permit is subject to compliance with applicable state law, including COVID-19 related guidance from the Department of Health or any other applicable state authority.
Will the person who made the motion accept that amendment? Trustee
Absolutely.
Fitzpatrick?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Will the seconder accept the amendment? Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Okay, then there's no need to vote on it. The amendment becomes part of the motion. Is there any other discussion about the motion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item of business is what I believe are the last of the budget transfers for the 2020 fiscal year budget. In closing these accounts for the end of the year, could I have a motion to accept those or to approve those transfers?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Shaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second
by trustee Raymond. Any discussion?
I do have there are a couple of things there was an expense for the library in the budget transfers and also in the abstract. So are we to assume that those are all, certainly in the budget transfer, it's all for the 2020 fiscal year, correct?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how about the things on the abstract? Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Budget transfers for 2020 are approved. Which brings us to budget transfers for fiscal 2021. I think everybody's aware of this, but this is the way it's supposed to be done. We're actually required to transfer the money into the line before we expend the line. As you know, we did not do that in 2020. We had to do a bunch of transfers at the end of the year to cover over expenditures. But this year, we're going to try very hard to do it right and to transfer the money into the lines that it needs to go into before we actually spend the money, which is a worthy goal. So could I have a motion to approve the budget transfers for fiscal 21?
So moved.
I make that
Motion
motion.
by trustee Shaw, second by trustee Raymond. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Those transfers are approved. That brings us to the consent agenda for the expenditures on the 2020 fiscal year. Could I have a motion to approve that consent agenda?
I make that motion.
Trustee Cormos, is there a second?
I second it.
Second by trustee Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda for the 2021 fiscal year. Could I have a motion to approve that list?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Raymond. Is there a second?
Aye. Second.
Second by trustee Shaw. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, nay. Motion carries. That brings us to liaison reports. Does any trustee have a liaison report to give us tonight?
I just, the Park and Tree Board met. The major topic of discussion was that some of the street trees have been severely trimmed on Milton to the basically, tree topping, major limbs. This was noted by a resident and has been reported to Dave LaFountain, although it may be difficult to determine who trimmed those trees. But the Park and Tree Board discussed that probably the best course of action is to educate the residents and property owners in the village as to that street trees, what they are, and that they are, not to be trimmed or modified without knowledge of the village. So it's probably a case where the tree's in front of their house, but it's, between the sidewalk and the road. And, that's against our tree law to top a tree. And actually our trees are one of our more valuable assets. If anyone's ever bought a tree for their property, they know how expensive they are, even a little tree. So having these trees, essentially destroyed is something we want to avoid.
In regards to that, how does that apply to overhanging limbs on somebody's property line?
Our sidewalk ordinance requires them to keep limbs trimmed away from the sidewalk.
Correct,
Right.
but what if
Yeah.
what if they're above 8 feet and they're overhanging, and the property owner, maybe they're interfering with a cable line or something like that? And
I
they,
believe that in New York State, the property owner has a legal right to remove any part of a tree that's growing over his property line.
that was my understanding as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, these trees were taken down to the trunk, essentially. And we do have an ordinance that prevents tree topping, removal of branches over 3 inches. So
Yeah, I guess what is how do we reconcile that? Because if
We
they're,
reconcile it by, if somebody has a problem and wants to remove a major limb, they need to contact the village. And that work also should be done by a registered arborist.
but
So they
that's in
don't-
direct contrast to the law that Larry just spoke of. That you have the right and you don't need to have an arborist do it. And you don't need to necessarily contact the municipality if it's hanging over on your property line. So
But
I think we need to
the
clarify
limbs
that.
that were removed were on village property, on public.
I understand that particular case, but moving forward in general, if, someone is probably not going to call an arborist for something that's over on their property line simply because of the cost and, they want to get it done. And it sounds like they're within their rights by law to do that. It seems like we have a contradicting law to state common law. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but, maybe Noah can shed some light on that. How do we clarify that?
So,
I think Stephanie maybe.
yeah, I mean, this is not my area of expertise. I would say that, when there is a local law that conflicts with state law, if somebody challenges it, the local law gets struck down. But, I don't think we're there yet. So let's just table this one, I would say.
Okay.
Well, the Park and Tree Board is free to come up with recommendations to make to the board if it has specific
I think
issues
we need,
that it thinks we need to address, but at this point, we don't have anything in front of us.
yeah, we need to clarify what Sean's brought up. What can you do as a property owner and what can't you do? And reconcile that with our own tree laws. But, if the tree is on village property, you're not supposed to take it down to its trunk. If you look at these trees at 4th Street and across from the library, you can see what they've done to the trees, and it's too late. So we're going to embark on some education so that people are aware, that these trees are not on their property, they're on the village's property.
Okay, thank you. Any other liaison reports tonight?
Yes, I do. Just very quickly, I just wanted to let folks know that as of tomorrow, the library is going to resume curbside service. They've done a lot of work getting all the books back that they own, thanks to Jeff opening up the book drop and helping them organize a system where they can quarantine some of the books. But what they're doing is people are either by phone or by through the website for the library, they're ordering books, and they have 50 appointments. They're having people come, call, and they're going to come out. The library staff is going to come out and, check with the bag, check out their books and hand them. They have more than 50 appointments just for tomorrow.
Wow.
So this goes to show you how much, people are out of things to read, clearly.
That's great.
And so 50 appointments, Andrea says, just for tomorrow. So they're back in business. They're very excited. And, so we're going forward.
Thank you. When do they anticipate opening the doors?
They're talking about sometime, further in the summer, sometime in August. There are a number of things that have to be worked out until then.
One of the things that you might mention to them as one of these things that needs to be worked out is how they're going to handle their meeting room downstairs. At some point, this board is going to want to resume meeting in public. I'm kind of assuming it won't be in July, but at some point we're going to want to do that. And so when are they comfortable hosting us, and what are the implications of that?
I will put that on the agenda for the next library board meeting. And I know, when they do have a plan about when all of this opens, but a lot of it is they're doing it in conjunction with what every other library in the area is doing. The sales has a system for reopening libraries, And one of the things that was holding this up was that the whole sales system had been brought down and had to be brought back up so that all the books can, be shared on a regular basis.
Right.
Okay,
All right.
but I will bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other liaison reports tonight?
I just think it's worth a shout out to DPW and the police for and obviously you, Mayor, and all the business owners for pulling off what seemed to be a relatively seamless closure of Front Street this past Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Relatively few kinks to work out, and everybody seemed to be. I mean, I didn't hear a lot of grousing. I didn't see a lot of complaints. People who had left their cars there moved them pretty quickly. Like, all things considered, pretty smooth, and a testament to everybody working together. So thank you to all the DPW and police folks who made it happen. And I'm hoping that we can continue to get the word out and get even more people down there for our local businesses next weekend.
Good, thank you.
Excellent. It was excellent. And I think part of the reason, well, it was the first weekend, but also it was so hot. I mean, depending upon which side of the street you were sitting on, you could be the one sauteing rather than your food, but
Yeah, we went down Saturday night and it was very nice.
yeah, but it was very nice. Yeah, when I went down. Yep.
All right, moving on to other business. I do have one item of other business. I'm not sure whether it made it home to you. I don't remember exactly what day it came in, but in the budget for this year, we created a position, a part-time position for record keeper for the fire department to help with the budget and to help with some other stuff as well. And I would like to appoint Glenn Bowers Jr. to that position. Did that get home, or is that news to everyone? It must be news to everyone. Okay, it just came in the last couple of days, but it is a position that we did create. It is funded. It is in the budget, and we did ask the fire department to recommend somebody for that position. They recommended Glenn Bowers Jr., and I'm appointing him. And I would like to ask for a motion to ratify my appointment of Glenn Bowers Jr. as part-time record keeper in the fire department.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Shaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Raymond. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Is there any board member have any other business tonight? If not, that brings us to public comment. I'm gonna pull up the list of participants, and given the small number and our familiarity with everyone, if you want to speak, please just raise your hand. And I see a hand raised by Frank Rossi, so I'm unmuting him. Go ahead, Mr. Rossi.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
First, I think I speak for a lot of people that view the meetings. We're all concerned that Julia, who's been added to these meetings, she looks great on the screen, but I don't think she said one word yet in the 2 meetings. We want to make sure that she's okay there, that she's not being held hostage in her Zoom box.
We don't want to hear a crying baby.
There you go. Julia, it's great seeing you on these meetings. I just want to poke a little fun there. But one thing I did want to ask, and Sean, I know you're familiar with the project, is I brought this up, I think, in the last meeting. We were finishing up the enhancements at High Street and Route 50, 67 over there. And we've been noticing, and to a certain degree also pointing it out to, I think, Chief Bush, among others, some vehicles still parking in what is now the no parking zone, as we had moved over the stripe to create 2 lanes near the traffic light at High Street. It's our intention. We had made an agreement with the church to eliminate that parking. They had paved their driveway around, et cetera, to give them new parking spaces and everything else. Putting a parked car in that zone is obviously dangerous now that it is actually a lane of traffic. We want to make sure that the best possible signage is there, but also we don't want BSPD to have become, the chasers of outlaws of parking over there either. So we want to kind of create a balance, obviously, to the degree possible. Sean, is there anything that DOT can do signage-wise to make it a little bit more clearer that that is absolutely positively not a parking zone now? It wasn't technically back when, but it was allowed. But is there anything that can be done that you know of that could change this?
Sometimes when we have issues with that, we can use the signage. You might have seen it. It's usually on the right side of the roadway, and it's a regulatory sign, so black on white, and it denotes that this lane is for left turns or left and through, and then this one would be for right turns. You could probably put that sign a little farther back towards the end of the actual storage lane, where, you know, and people might realize, oh, that's actually a lane of traffic. That's one way to do it, other than just proliferating the no parking signs.
Is there any way you could possibly raise it over with Matt Haggerty and company over at DOT just to kind of catch their attention on it? Because again, we don't want to create big issues with this, but at the same time, we want to make sure safety is maximized over there.
Okay. Yeah, I can speak to Matt and see what we can do there. I assume you're not wrapped up yet, or?
We are. I think we were either doing our punch list items the end of last week or beginning of this week. So I'll check on that. But I think we basically are wrapped,
Okay.
except for some reseeding or sodding, I think.
All right. Yeah, because I mean, if for some reason the project's wrapped up and they can't do it as part of that project, we could reach out to the Saratoga County residency. So.
Okay. Well, you know, let's solve it somehow to the degree we can, and make sure that nobody's getting hurt out there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rossi. Is there any other public comment tonight? I don't see any other hands. Any other public comment? Last call. All right, I will close the public comment session. The board does have need to go into a brief executive session tonight before we adjourn. I can assure the members of the public that we are not going to conduct any business when we come back from executive session other than adjourning the meeting. It would be much easier for us if everybody else would leave the meeting so that we could just stay here and have our exec. Obviously, if there's any objection to that, you have a legal right to stay around and listen to us adjourn later, but then we'd have to create a new meeting and go through all that rigmarole. So is there any objection to the public if I end the meeting for the public and you don't have the opportunity to hear us adjourn in 10 or 15 minutes?
Well, Frank is muted, so I don't think they can they answer?
They can raise their hand.
They can raise
They
their
can raise their
hands, and I
hand,
don't see
okay.
any hands raised, so I'm going to assume that that means they're okay with it. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate your attendance. I'm going to remove you from the meeting, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Hi, Julia. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye, Julia. Thanks.
It was nice to hear your voice.
Agreed. All right, what's up?
Okay, all of the attendees are gone. Everybody's gone, but the board. Stephanie, I'm gonna stop the recording also.
It's really interesting how when people leave, the boxes all shift around,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
You know, we could hold an outdoor meeting. Remember, Mayor
Yeah.
Romano used to do that.
Oh, yeah, today would be a great day to hold an outdoor meeting.
He always did
Nah.
it.
Okay, we're back in public. It's 10 minutes after 8. We just adjourned the executive session. And at this point, I would like to ask for a motion that vouchers number 20-01724 to 20-02147 and 21-00010 to 21-00063 be audited and the meeting adjourned. Could I have that motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Shaw, second by trustee Raymond. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Oh.
nay. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
bye,
Bye.
thank you.
Good to see everyone.
Aye.